changes that I think have helped with that, you know, but yeah, it's more of just, you know, just kind of thinking about like, I want to have more financial freedom. So, and that was really like when I started reading and learning, you know, just like, I can do that. I'm a pretty smart guy, like, or I think I'm smart, you know, like I've seen other people do it who I know, I'm like, I think I can do that, I can rinse and repeat. So, but just trying to, you know, like anybody, you know, minimize risk, minimize making mistakes, and, you know, optimize. So that's
absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to do, but, I don't know, so, you know, it's like, I don't know, I'm humble enough to admit that I, you know very little, you know what I mean, like, that's what I mean, so, I think just knowing, I don't know what the catalyst was, maybe just like, you know, like looking at bills every month, it's just like, this, we're not getting ahead, you know, I didn't feel like I was getting ahead, you know, like I just, I feel like I'm just like kind of maintaining, so, I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at, I'm sorry, Mike.
Oh, no, you're good, I'm listening, because it's all gonna be necessary for what we're gonna talk about today.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and get started, finally got everything working, I'm upset because I broke my mic. And the one time I don't bring the extra media bag. So, well, hello everybody. I am Drew Dockery. I am the master connector over at the Connector's Corner, where we build everything on kingdom principle. Today, we're actually running a workshop for our ministry called Kingdom Faith Ministries. So, it's basically teaching the Bible for business from biblical principles. Anybody familiar with the Bible? You read, study? Study? Okay. So what I found is, because I'm a PK, I'm a pastor's kid, so what I found is I've learned all this cool stuff in the Bible and nowhere to apply it but church. And to me, that is kind of a disservice to myself, because as I got into the secular world, becoming an adult, getting a chance to work with different people, you find that people who haven't learned the Bible the way we learn the Bible, they take it and they apply it to their lives and they do amazing things with it. I want to be able to do the same thing, because obviously it's the principles that work no matter where you're operating, whether it's church, whether it's secular, whether it's business, even nonprofit organizations. The one thing I find about principles is they are laws that are applied across the board. No matter what you do, no matter where you go, there's going to be the same amount of activity, same amount of laws, same amount of principles that are going to apply to get success for that thing that you're working on. Okay. That sounds good?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, so so I think I'll go to our first slide. Well, actually, this is the contact information for me. But the first question I have for you guys is, what is the first thing we learn about Yahweh, God? What's the first thing you learn about him? And we give this scripture: in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What is that first line when you read the Bible? What does that first line tell you?
So in the beginning, God created, so God created.
Mm-hmm. I like that. There's no wrong answer. I'm looking for feedback. Y'all gotta talk to me. Y'all talk to me, we'll do all right. Drew Skin, how you doing? Good morning, how you doing? And by the way, this is not designed to make anybody transfer faiths. Okay? So I want to be able to speak without offending, and I need you guys to pay attention and listen without defending, because I'm not trying to change your religion. What we find is the same principles that ride through every religion. It's that golden thread that goes through every religion. So when you read this line, what is the first thing that sticks out to you?
I was thinking Almighty.
Almighty. That's good. I like that. And that's why I wrote it that way, because they reverence the Yahweh. Well, we put vowels to it so we can pronounce it, but they reverence that. So it's high and mighty, almighty, the Holy One. It's pretty good. You said creator. He's creating. What about you?
Beginning.
The beginning.
The start.
The start. Okay. I like that too. Drewski, what comes to mind when you first read that first scripture in the Bible? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
You gotta come back.
So,
The worst person to ask is.
I need to know. Yeah,
The creator.
the creator. Okay. So, if a person is creative, what do they have to do to be creative? Start, that's part of it.
Have an idea.
That's the second. What else? Nobody else?
Have the drive.
Willing to take a risk.
Willing to take a risk. Okay. So, looking at that aspect of creativity, I found throughout creation there are like 6 different pillars that he used that you can really see evident in what he did to create heaven and earth. So, I'll list them here: vision, leadership, branding, marketing, networking. All those you see throughout the entire gamut of the Bible, Jesus' ministry. We're going to get there because we're going to hop around a lot. But it's just really picking out the powerful principles that we see that are going to help you apply and do something strategy-wise for your business, for your whatever it is you're working on. There's stuff back there if you want some water or anything like that. Juice, donuts. Okay. So, I'll say this. Oh, too far. The first 3 things we learn about God, we hit them all on the head. Thinks, he's creative. So that means he has to come up with something. There's something that's in him that has to come out, that needs expression. So that's the first thing. Second thing is he's decisive. When you decide to act on something, it's really, okay, we're doing this. So that's the starting point. And lastly is active. He's active. So that shows his faith in what he's doing.
Right.
Why does that apply to business?
Because if you don't believe in yourself, you don't trust in what you're about to do, then no one else can. They can't buy it.
That's part of it. That's part of it. Next.
I feel like your very belief, like a byproduct of your belief is your action.
Mm-hmm.
So like you believing in something, the byproduct of it is you act on it.
Got you. That's good. That's good. I like that. Anybody else? Justin? Anybody? I agree. I feel like based on what we see, your faith is going to start that activity. So a person, if they're building a business or they're building a ministry or whatever it is that they're building, they are going to do certain things in a way that you know they're sure.
Right.
What changes the sureness? Belief, somewhat.
Action.
Action, yes. But what changes the action? What changes the belief? Because you get that, that's how you feel.
Decision. Making a decision to take that leap.
I think positive reinforcement helps too.
Yes, that's where I'm going. It's who you're around that decides whether or not you're going to pursue something. So in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. We know he's creative, we know he's decisive, and we know he's active. Notice there's nobody around to tell him, oh, that won't work.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody around. So anything that he decides to do, he's going to do it because he decided to. Who can stop him from doing it? The reason why this is important is because if we're made in his image, which we find later on in chapter 2, when he decides to make man, you're made in his image and in his likeness. So that means you possess his characteristics to do certain things without being inhibited from access or doing certain things. That's the power of being who you are. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily about whether the idea is going to work or not. It's not necessarily about whether the business strategy is going to work or not. It's can you push through to do or pursue this result that you're looking for without any hesitation, without losing your decisiveness. You're acting without being worried about who's going to combat what it is you're pursuing. And then are you thinking creatively enough to say, no matter how this goes, my goal is this, but it's not a straight line. I'm willing to zigzag my way to what I'm looking to have accomplished. And that is what we find as far as who God is, why his characteristics, his image, his likeness is so important to us, because if we're made in his image, we have to adopt the same like mind. And that's really key. So that's goodness Lord. So that brings us to vision. What do you see as the future of your idea, your career, your business? What do you see happening? Because he spoke everything into existence. He didn't worry about anybody else. Nobody else was there, but other than, the Godhead. But even they are in full mastermind energy to make sure that this is accomplished. So what do you see as the future of this idea or this career or this business move that you're looking to make? What do you see at the end of it? Anybody want to jump out there?
Say financial freedom.
Financial freedom, okay. We gotta get a little more specific.
Fair enough.
Gotta get a little more specific. Yeah. Because remember, he created, right? He was very specific. It was his spirit hovered over the waters, and darkness filled the earth, and the earth was void. So that's very descriptive. And he speaks to it. Now it decides to take form. You separate heaven from earth. Okay? So he's speaking to it, and it's getting descriptive. Now from the land, I want animals to come forth. From the water, I want animals to come forth. From the air, I want the birds to start flying. He's speaking these things. So what are you speaking for your future?
Is that a rhetorical question?
It's not a rhetorical question. I want to know. Just give me one specific thing. If you could really paint the picture of what you say life would be after this thing is accomplished, what's the one thing you like? I know I got it when I got this.
Pay off my mortgage early.
Pay off your mortgage early. Okay.
For me, it's a business goal. So my business goal is changing the ideology that we as a people, I want to say more specifically Black individuals in this poverty city can be homeowners. So just changing that narrative, because the narrative has been for many years that they can't. So when I'm done, I close my eyes to my business. I want to see that more than not. People now see from receipts from others or their own testimony that it was possible for them, not for someone else, but for you. That's as far as my business. Everything that I'm doing in my business is leading to that one goal.
That's good. So with that goal being in mind, because we boys, so I kind of know, but how do you know you're close, or how do you know you're making an impact?
Because I'm being invited by the power and decision makers.
It's the different rooms again.
For my expertise for that.
I like that. Anybody else?
Being
Because the mortgage is descriptive, so that's a number. You know the number, you can grow the number. That's it.
It's quantitative.
Yeah, it's quantitative. The one thing that's absolute is always the numbers. As Jim Rohn said, the numbers tell us the whole story. All you need to know is the numbers. I don't need an excuse when it comes to me asking you to do something. I need the number. How many? How much? The number. Anything?
I would say, I got this written down, so I already kind of know, especially if we're talking about numbers. Just 40 by 40, so 40 million in the bank by 40 years old.
Okay. And how old are you now?
27.
Ooh, okay. I know some 27-year-old. Well, they was 27 when they got to that point, but it can happen. It can happen. So yeah, that's good.
With God, anything's possible.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah.
That's good.
Oh yeah. And like we said, it's your vision. So whatever you see, you can't allow anybody to, I would say, make your vision abstract. Because you see it a certain way. It's gonna be abstract to them. Don't allow them to make your vision abstract.
Right.
Absolutely.
So,
What space are you in?
I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
Can we have
What space are you in? What do you do?
sales and marketing?
Any specific?
We work with a couple different manufacturers. All we do is supply products using theirs. Everything's done online. No inventory or anything. No employees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know a few guys in the same space. Definitely did very well. I can give you a couple names. I won't give them because we online, but
That's what I was asking for.
I won't.
Be connecting real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah. No, but before this is over, make sure we connect, and I'll give you some names to look at
Consider it done.
for sure. So, with the vision of the future that you see, you're gonna fall in one of two lanes. Either it's product or service, as we just noticed. It's product or services. So products are chosen from either uniqueness or innovation. And if your vision involves a product, you have to be either innovative in the marketplace or it's so unique everybody loves it. So it's one of those two. Services are chosen from the authority that they bring to the marketplace. So if you look at even the products that you grew up using, like like Arm and Hammer, baking soda. Did you have that in there? No? Anybody else? My mother cleaned everything with baking soda.
My brush your teeth to this.
Listen,
Never used to think of- Seriously.
I'm like, that cannot be saved, but okay. That cannot be saved, but okay, so baking soda is one thing we all recognize. You go into the store, you see it on the shelf, you'll know it's there, right? Services. What's a service that you feel comes to the marketplace and demands or commands authority in that space? Just give me one. What can you think of? A service.
Consulting with someone that has value that already proved that they can produce.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, doctors, services, doctors.
Yeah, professionals. Yeah, we know a lot of professionals that they command
Sure.
money in their space. You have to pay them. A surgeon, you can, they got people getting BBLs and all these, lifts and Brazilian this and Brazilian that. But yeah, it costs a lot for them kind of surgeries. It costs some money. So when you have authority in your marketplace, how do you know that you are the authority in that marketplace?
I feel like what he said, I mean, kind of, you get in different rooms, it's kind of like you walk in, you own it,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's what, he just talked about, get in different rooms, different people, I don't know.
The invite and the offer for compensation before you have to ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
They know,
Okay.
they come ready with the checkbook,
Mm-hmm.
With the Zelle, with the PayPal, they're ready.
You're ready.
They don't question your value.
Yeah, that's good. So that's your display of your authority in the marketplace. Product wise, how would you know that your product is doing very well in the marketplace?
The sales.
The sales.
Money.
Again, we get back to that number. If you know the number, you can grow the number. So that's vision. Second part of this, when we look at what we know, I would say it's leadership. And the reason why I say it's leadership is because leaders act, which is what he hit on earlier. So I wasn't gonna jump slides just to fill you in. But no, it's leaders act. There's always a promptness to act on something when you're dealing with a leader. What I found is a lot of people have a hard time dealing with leaders. They have a hard time dealing with them because they attach negative connotations to them, like rebellious, or he is arrogant, or she is arrogant. You said
Just because they carry themselves with some type
with a certain way, right? So
Well, they don't wait, there's no haste. People don't like the fact that you move on stuff before you talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Like, they always think that it needs to be a meeting before the decision is made.
Right.
You're
When
the
there's-
leader.
Right, when there's something that's necessary, a leader, like you said, acts to it. It's not, you don't always have time to sit and figure out what other people think about what you know that needs to be done.
and a lot of times that poisons the idea anyway. As we can see, the only reason why the creation was successful is because there's no outside influences. There's no outside influences. Everything he decided to do, he acted on, he thought up, he acted on it, and there's nothing to stop him from acting. To me, that's leadership. When you look at any leader in secular business, they'll tell you, you'll always see the rags to riches story. That's throughout every story of every leader. They, we're doing such and such with this company, and, it didn't work out, and they had to start from the bottom, and now they're here, right? Steve Jobs, I was reminded of his story. He started the company, they kicked him out of the company, and then years later have to hire him back because they can't run it without him. And that is leadership. When you can move or influence anything to a level where you're needed, that commands your authority in the marketplace. That's your commandment. They needed him. They couldn't do it without him. So, leadership. What I'm going to recall is the story of the talents, because leadership also requires stewardship. A lot of people are horrible leaders when they're in the position. A lot of them are just positional. So they suck at what they do because they don't have the ability to lead. So, story of the talents. I gave the scripture because it was way too long to put up here. Matthew 25, 14 through 30. And just so we can give a brushed up synopsis on it, the story goes, there's a rich man, a certain rich man, who has servants. What he does is he's going out of town for a while. He decides to give talents, money to his servants for them to do something with it while he's gone. So to one he gives 5. The next one he gives 2, and then the next one he gives 1. So he goes on his journey, he comes back. He's looking for an accounting. Remember, if we know the number, we can grow the number, right? Mm-hmm. So he asks the one who has 5, I gave you 5, what did you do with it? He said, I turned the 5 into 10. He said, okay, that's good, well done. That's real good, I like those numbers. 5 to 10, 100% return on your investment, that's a good look. He asked the second one, I gave you 2 talents, what did you do? He said, I turned from 2 to 4. I didn't go from 5 to 10 or 2 to 10, 2 to 4. I'm like, okay, so you doubled the investment. That's good, perfect. He asked the last one, I gave you 1 talent, what did you do? He said, well, because I know you're a hard man, I buried it and thought I would give it back to you when you got here, because I felt like that would be better, because I know you're hard to deal with. And the leader, the ruler now calls him evil and casts him into outer darkness. So what do we learn from this story is the key.
I feel like what's ever managed well is multiplied, whatever is mismanaged is taken away from you.
That is absolutely profound. Whatever is managed well is multiplied, and whatever is mismanaged is taken away from you.
It's your talent, your abilities.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. Now, do you feel like he mismanaged it purposely?
Not just out of ignorance, maybe. Not knowing what to do with it.
Mm-hmm. So, how have we done that in our businesses, in our practices? I got a good story about somebody mismanaging. Ooh, God, fumbled it real bad.
We don't know our audience, or we don't read the room.
Mm-hmm. That's a big fumble. Whew. I see that happen all the time. Mm-hmm. Terrible. Anybody else?
I feel like sometimes people don't know their own gifts, their own talents, their own abilities. I feel like you gotta first know yourself. You gotta know like your environment, right? Your audience, your products, mm-hmm. whatever business you're in. Sure.
That's good. Well, I got a story for you. I was a part of a networking group as a business coach, and I sit on the board for a company here in Buffalo. I had pretty good rapport with the CEO. So we were on first name basis. We contact each other directly. It was a great relationship. I knew they needed a very specific product. Ironically, I knew somebody who had exactly what they needed. He offered it. So I set up the meeting. I told him, hey, I gave him very specific rules. This is not a sales opportunity in this moment. We're not coming here to sell. You're coming here to rub shoulders, meet and greet, and then we can kind of book a meeting from a meeting to have a sales opportunity. This is not the one. Very specific. And I know he's an upstanding guy. He dressed well pretty much most of the time. So I just said, hey, I'm coming suited, no tie. So now you know what to put on. Put something decent on. Don't come showing up looking crazy. He said, okay, yeah, Drew, I got you. I'm like, okay, good. We get there. I'm sitting in the car. And I'm about 5 minutes behind. I'm okay because the CEO was running behind. She hadn't got there yet. So I'm like, okay, perfect. And a few more minutes go by. Now it's right at the meeting time. I'm like, okay, well, let me go inside. I hadn't heard from her and I hadn't heard from him. I go in and he's presenting to the CEO, full on presentation. Got his laptop out, got his cell phone with the prompts going. And then because his stuff stopped working, he had to call somebody on three-way to do this presentation over the phone while he just goes through the slides. When I tell you he botched it so bad, he wasn't dressed right, already strike one. He came in a polo and some golfing pants and some dirty sneakers. We're meeting with the CEO of the company. Cleanliness is next to godliness. That's a saying. It's not scripture, but it sounds like it, right? It sounds like it. But the thing is, he came in without being prepared. He wasn't prepared. And I'm saying he wasn't prepared because he wasn't in alignment. In my book, I talk about being congruent. If you don't have the Connector's Connector's Handbook, I'll make sure you get it because that's going to be my gift for everybody showing up. I'll give you a free ebook. But he wasn't congruent. He didn't look the part. He sounded crazy, and he wasn't the authority in his marketplace. What made it so bad is they needed everything he offered. So now we go there. He does this botched presentation, which was horrible. She politely took notes. She wasn't rude. She didn't kick us out, none of that. And it was mainly him riding on my reputation with her, my friendship, my connection, my relationship. So we end up having this conversation and she hugs me, I hug her, we leave. I get out. I think I had to calm down because like I said, I'm a PK. So pastors understand what it is when the sheep don't really follow the way they should follow. My grandfather would call it ripping somebody's jacket. I gotta rip your jacket. So I had to calm down because it wasn't that relationship, but he was damaging my credibility. Yeah, so now my reputation is on the line. So we have this conversation. Hey, bro, I'm very relaxed with it. Hey, bro, you really messed this up real bad. I don't know how somebody would normally fumble something like that because they needed everything that you offered. But I told you this wasn't a sales opportunity. She was even willing for him to come back because she didn't want the presentation at that moment. We had 15 minutes. Let's meet and greet. He turned that into a 30-minute presentation. Botched. Bad. On top of the point of not being dressed right, not being the authority, and then he ruins the relationship with the lady because he didn't even get her phone number. So that made it even worse. So the whole reason for you coming is fumbled. And that's what we learned here in this story in Matthew about the talents. He fumbled what he was given. The master handed him something he didn't have to work for. And because he thought he understood who the master was, he now goes and does what he thinks the master would be okay with, and he fails at it. So, leadership, stewardship over talents, not just necessarily your natural talents, but it's everything you're given. It's your resources, it's your relationships, it's your network, it's your environment. All of those things are key into how you lead, because you have to lead from the front. You can't lead from the rear. You have to lead from the front. So, hey, come on in. Hey, Alex. So leadership is key. So what have we learned from leadership so far? I need to recap so we can go on to the next subject. Leadership is vision. Mm-hmm.
Taking the initiative.
Taking the initiative. A leader is decisive.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A leader acts.
Yep.
A leader is a good steward. Because
creative.
and he's creative. So now you see where we're going, because now we can actually put a title to what this is. We understand the concepts and the principles that go into this. In the beginning, God created. So now we have vision. Now we understand leadership. And we understand that leadership is stewardship, right? So with all that, you're looking to command authority in the marketplace, making yourself important, making yourself a power in the marketplace. The next is branding. Because we understand who God is and what he is, what he does. So what is his brand? Justin hit it earlier.
I was just gonna say it again.
Yeah.
Almighty.
Almighty, that's the brand.
Yeah.
He's the Almighty. Why do we consider him the Almighty?
I mean, without him, it's nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
That's the point. That y'all gotta think through this. Come on, man. Y'all gotta think. Wake up in here. think. It's him being Almighty because he's done so much.
Yes.
He's done so much. His reputation precedes him. I know the Bible talks about a vision in Isaiah, his train filling the temple. What a train is what kings wear, and it's their reputation. It's all the wars they've won in their gown or in their trailer as they walk through a certain place. And you can see, oh, he's done this. They're conquering, they're ruling, they're taking over. And that Almighty piece, he's undefeated. No losses.
No, not at all.
No losses at all. So that's his branding. So for branding, I grabbed a couple scriptures. Job 40:10. I'm reading out of the King James Version, so it's just old English. I like that, just for presentation purposes. Studying, I use other versions. Deck thyself now with majesty and excellency, and array thyself with glory and beauty. That's Job. So that is the branding. Now and I wrote that in my book. That's the rule he violated in the meeting.
Because your branding starts with you.
It starts with you. And if you don't look the part according to your branding, now people can't read you right. So anything else past that process, unfortunately, we live in a world where everything is, you got this fast or this long for me to really be like, okay, I want to talk to him or I don't. So the branding, that's the array yourself. That's the physical or outward appearance. Second is 1 Samuel 18:7. And the women answered one another as they played and said, Saul hath slain his thousands and David his ten thousands. So what is that line speaking to us? Saul has killed his thousands and David his 10,000s.
It kind of reminds me of the scripture you talked about in Matthew. Basically, now I kind of see a correlation with branding. Because when you are, even if you're carrying a legacy or you're moving on from a legacy, whether it's business, whatever area, you always want to do better than the number that you had originally. So it goes back to what you said, knowing your numbers.
Knowing your numbers. Okay. Anybody else?
I'm gonna piggyback on that. So, I'm gonna let you tie it to branding because I can't figure out how to tie the branding. But that speaks to legacy, as you mentioned. A leader expects for those who are following him to do better than he's done. So Saul is David's father. So Saul was able to do one thing, but what he passed down to David allowed David to 10x it. And that should happen from generation after generation, or from leader down to followers. There should be a succession plan.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. And that it goes with branding because the Bible said a good man leaves an inheritance for his children and his children's children. It's not just monetarily leaving something for them. If you leave them something that is a part of a brand, you give them a platform to build something on. If there's nothing to build on, they have to create the platform. So Saul killed his thousands, David 10,000s. This, oh, my bad, go
I
ahead.
know, I was gonna say, like, it also specifies that the women answered one by one after another, meaning that the women already knew their brand, both of them brands. So basically, Saul had slain his thousands, and by that, David had inherited that brand. And it was the women that said it, not someone else, or, you know, so people already knew about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's his branding. So there are authorities in the marketplace, right?
Yeah.
David must be innovative
Mm-hmm.
because he went from thousands to 10,000s, right? So now, ironically, in scripture, this is what pissed Saul off. So I'm just, for my Bible scholars here, this wasn't a good thing. This was something very horrible because at the time, Saul is the king. So Saul decides now I have to kill David because he getting more love than me, basically, in so many words. But it's ironic about the branding because they're both looked at as warriors.
Right.
And that's their brand. So throughout scripture, when they deal with other organizations, other cultures, other people, they know David and Saul to be warriors. So you have to handle them a different kind of way. You can't just be so willy-nilly because you might mess around and get killed in the process. But him slaying his 10,000 speaks to where he's going. It speaks of ascension, not just the legacy.
Forgive me too. So,
Mhm.
Jesse is David's father, not Saul.
Yeah. But no, that he was his father-in-law. So you're right.
I thought it was some serious.
Yeah, it was his father-in-law. Because I mean, he was pulled out of his father's house. He goes into the palace. That's how him and Jonathan become friends, like brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not nothing, you know.
That's the word.
Yeah, it's not nothing crazy. It's really just that dynamic of friendship. We're fighting together on the battlefield. I have to trust him with my life. He's leading our army. So I have to also look for my protection from him. I also have to protect him because we're brothers, even though I'm the king's son. So there's a love there that his brand establishes. Like, yo, listen, this is my, as we say growing up, this is my dog, this is my bro. Whatever we gonna do, whatever we need to do together, if it comes down to it. And that's how he gets to his level of tens of thousands. And when you do the I would say the background understanding of David and his warriors that he rolled with, it was a lot of them guys that came up like that. Not really big in stature. They don't have to be mighty in height or size or reputation, but they got their reputation because of his branding. So he wasn't the only giant killer. He was the first, but he wasn't the only. Because Goliath, the giant, had brothers. So his team, David's team, ended up going and killing a lot of his brothers and family members. Because, I mean, obviously that creates that conflict. Somebody gets killed. Hey, we gotta go get vengeance for my brother.
Yeah, big brother.
Yeah.
He was the smallest.
Yeah. Yeah, so that, and they said the one giant had 6 toes and 6 fingers on each hand. Had a 10-foot bed he laid in. Yeah, but one of David's homeboys took him out. So that goes to show, the branding is not just for you to live on, it's for those around you to be able to live on and experience. Your brand means everything. Case in point, my buddy, when I brought him into the room, number one, he already violated because he didn't get ushered into the room. We're gonna talk about that later, because Drewski was hitting on that. That's, as a coach, that's what my focus is, networking. I teach heavy on networking, because to me, if you lack something in talent or in skill, your network will provide for you to be able to make up what you lack, because it's about that mastermind group. So when we get to that point, we'll talk about that. We'll discuss that and break that down. So that's David. That's part of branding. Second thing, Proverbs 22:1. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's Solomon. Quote unquote, the wisest person ever lived. But it's Solomon. Now, I would say he knows something about building a network. He knows something about branding, for sure, for sure. So what can we take from what his thought is here?
Name is more important than anything else. I mean, it's your reputation. Your name is valuable. It's more important than gold and silver. Yeah.
Yeah, and also how you treat the ones that seek help from you or whoever you aid
Mm-hmm.
is important too.
Oh yeah, that results in a good name, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
That's why big brands buy little brands, right?
I'm sorry?
That's why big brands buy little brands, right?
Yeah.
Because they can afford to buy the name recognition and turn that into silver and gold. If you
Mm-hmm. Yep. See, they're related. Having a good name, you can monetize having a good name. It's not necessarily, it's not advised to have a bad name.
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of times when we reach adulthood, my mentor told me a lot of times when you get into business, you pay the price for who you were prior to starting the business. When you start a business, you pay the price for it. So a lot of people realize that, oh man, this is not as easy or as simple as it seemed when I got into it. But what you're feeling is you paying the price of not being the person you don't have the brand for that move. So having the brand is key. The result is that your body of work helps you create for people in the marketplace, and that becomes your brand. That becomes your brand. So what result can you give somebody in the marketplace that makes you an authority, that gives you, you're unique in the marketplace, you're innovative in the marketplace as far as products. But what gives you that leverage in the marketplace? And that's what your brand is going to sum up.
Can I just jump in there?
Yep, go ahead.
I just want to make it clear, especially from the Christian faith and the other faiths too, as you study them, that it is not in any way, part or form saying, he is not saying that you can't have them both.
Yep.
He's just saying 51% to the 49% when it comes to choosing. You know what I mean? I don't think it's been taught so many different ways, so many different times that it's a blessing to be poor.
Oh, yeah,
because your faith he's literally, so I mean, Solomon is arguably the wealthiest person that ever lived. That's the Bible.
That's what the Bible says.
Yeah, the Bible. So like you said, he was able to monetize that great name where he didn't have to go after the tangibles. The intangibles was it outweighed it, but it's just it has to always be backed with. But it is still great to be well. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
It's just I think that gets left off so much, and unfortunately, I see that people are okay with being in poverty state because they feel that there's a blessing in that, and then that blessing comes in heaven. No, we are all his children, right? So we were all supposed to be well off here as well. There was not supposed to be any poor people here.
Right.
That was a choice. Like if you chose to go against the
Right.
So I just like to always throw that, insert that in there because it's I've been seeing it for generations.
Yeah.
And I argue the fact that you were mistaught that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that may have been from ignorance, it may have been intentional. Depends on who the leader of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
A lot of times it's just the environment that you're in that you pick that up.
Can I piggyback on that?
Mhm.
Where you dying me to cut you? Okay, even in Proverbs it talks about not Proverbs. It talks about in the Bible that the Lord will give you the desires of your heart. And also ask and it shall be given to you. But even in the Bible too, it talks about how God, we have that availability, we have access. And if God, as it referenced God being the king, God being our father, if our father is a king, why would we not have access to wealth? Why would we not have access to higher living? So I definitely agree with you, especially in the Black community, we are systematically programmed in our mind that we have to, like, we can only get the bare minimum. You have so many people that are in the church that are struggling too and won't say anything.
Yeah.
But no, you can still do God's work and still be absolutely wealthy. You still can do God's work and still have everything you need and some. Even if it's just not just for you, but it's to give back or it's to give to other people. You have the access and you also have the opportunity to be able to command, like you said at the beginning, command What you want? I want my business to grow to this, that, and the third. Once you speak it, that thing has to line up. And that's just the type of God that we serve. I'm not even trying to force that on that, but when you speak a thing into the atmosphere, that's why it says life and death is in the power of the tongue. When you speak things, it has to activate. It might not activate tomorrow. It might not activate a week from now, but it has to activate. Everything that you command has to come into alignment. So when you're speaking over your business, you're saying, I want these numbers, or I want 40 mil in my bank at 40. It's going to happen. It has to come into alignment because you already spoke those things and you spoke it with authority.
That's good.
I think it like happened on earth too.
Yes.
It's talking about happening on earth. I feel like you said, a lot of times people just feel like, hey, those things are just meant in heaven, but you're supposed to have heaven on earth as well, you know? And that last line, it reminds me of like Zig Ziglar. He talks about when you're helping out people get what they want, you're
You get everything that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So I mean, even with that being said, with Brandon, I know you kind of came in late. We covered that. The reason why a lot of people miss out on their opportunity to grasp whatever God has for them, it's because they don't understand who they are. They don't have that vision. They don't understand, because the first line we covered was, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. They don't understand what it takes for God to be creative, what's included in being creative. And if you're made in his image, how does that work for you? How can you adopt that mindset? Because you just said, let this mind be in you. So how do you adopt that mindset? A lot of people don't have it. They don't understand it. So I definitely agree. You can be broke, you can be poor. That's by choice. The poor, you will have what you always, is what Jesus said. But it's not your right. It's not your divine birthright to be broke or broken or to be poor or devastated. It's not your right. That's not his design for you. And that's obvious.
I'm going to backpedal a little bit. I wish we would have had our pastor come in to talk, especially on branding. So we have a logo for our church that is a T with a swizzle. But if you see people walking around, they usually have a hoodie, a hat, a mug, or something like that. But the first thing you think about is, oh, they go to top. We also have a slogan called "Great People Go to the Top." So the first thing you see, but that comes from the leadership too. So our leadership, our pastor, real smooth. He like real smooth, real laid back, real calm. But his presentation is, and even when it talks about his a good name, and you know, he loving, open his doors to anybody. But his reputation is based off of also on Tabernacle of Praise, but him as a person too. Him as a person, him coming into rooms and being invited to rooms, and it's still keeping the same consistency of giving, same consistency of anywhere that I can help, I'm gonna help. Same, it's consistent. So because of that consistency and his creativity through the branding, I should have worn my hoodie. When you see it, you're like, oh snap, he with great people. Oh, that's Pastor McCarley. He's good people. That brand also reflects on us as members too here. So when I was looking at Proverbs 22 and it says a good name rather be chosen, that's what I first thought about. And even with branding, because branding, yes, it's about your presentation and stuff like that, but it's also what you stand for and what you represent and what you have to show for it too.
Right. Now, biblically, all of that aligns with Solomon and what he's doing. So why do we know Solomon so well? That's a real question I'm asking. What do you know about Solomon? I want everybody to answer.
He built the temple.
Okay, that's one thing.
Solomon had a lot of women.
You would pick that one.
Everything.
What else? He had that.
Wise and rich.
Yeah.
Wise and rich.
Well, yeah.
He was a creative.
Very creative. Anybody else?
I feel like everybody knows him so well is because of what he's produced, though. Because of what he's produced.
Yes. Because that was what gave him his good name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we know his story. Well, most of us know his story. I won't act like we know his story. But he prayed to God, I want to be a good king. So what can you give me that's going to make me a good king? So instead of praying for money and power, I'll just pray for wisdom. Because wisdom is the principal thing. So the Lord says, because you prayed for wisdom and you didn't pray for wealth, I'm going to give you everything along with the wisdom. And that's how he began to build his brand. So the unique thing about Solomon was he was so influential that people from other cultures and countries and other nations would come to him to get consulting. He was the business consultant of ancient antiquity, the business consultant. They would bring him gifts. They would bring him gold, bring him treasure that helped create his wealth. That's why it's better a good name chosen than great riches, and love and favor rather than silver and gold.
Right.
If you have those things, people will give to you out of their abundance because they appreciate your brand. They appreciate who you are. So the temple was one thing that he was renowned for. They had a floor that was laid with gold. And because of that, people would come to the temple. They would look at how the priests operate, how they worship, how they do certain things, and they would take that same culture back to their homeland, and they would build similar to what the temple was. So he was influential, he's innovative, he's an authority in his space because of all of those things. And that right there is what made his brand top tier, to the point where you can't really, there's not much that he did that we, I would say, don't still see evidence of it or residue from it today. From building churches to the way the sanctuary is set up. You got the vestibule, you got the main part of the sanctuary. And when you get into the sanctuary, you have the what we call the pulpit. But that was considered the holies of holies. But because he created it to be such a high place, he put steps there. That's why we have steps for the pulpit. See, there's a lot of stuff that we don't realize that is innate in even our architecture. That we look at Solomon and we have no idea what he's done outside of the ladies, because that was what got him into it. But I mean, not got him into it, but got him into a place where he ended up going the wrong way. But when you have all these nations coming to you, bringing you stuff, it's only so much gold you can have. It's only so much rubies and diamonds that you can have. So what else they gonna bring you? They bring him women. That he was married to all the women because it was negotiated treaties to have all those different contacts and connections. So he's building relationships the wrong way, because that makes it defective.
That was a good network.
No, it's a good network, but it's
Got a
bad.
woman from every country. I mean,
That's true, but it hurt his credibility as a king. And the reason why it hurt his credibility as a king is because it was more of a negative. It sounded like they felt he was more enthused with women than doing purpose work, God's work.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So for that, now you see the kingdom go down, and then when you read the history of Israel, there are so many different kings that were just worse than him or worse off. And at the end of his life, then he started to change his mindset about how all that, came to be. But that hurt him a lot. That hurt him a lot, especially with all those different, all them soul ties, 1,000 soul ties. You ain't got to see the same woman for the next 3 years. If you don't want to, that's crazy. So, Brandon, what is this brand?
Rolls Royce.
Rolls Royce. Going once, going twice. Why do you know that if you've never seen a commercial for Rolls Royce?
Luxury.
Mm-hmm. It's what it represents, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Demand. Not high demand.
rarity.
Very rare. Like in the last 5-6 years, we started to see a lot more Rolls Royces riding around Buffalo. Before that, you would rarely see one. And if you saw one, they probably had a Florida plate. Yeah. So Rolls Royce, we know them, no commercials, but we know them. What's that brand?
Apple.
I know most of y'all is Apple users in the chat.
Samsung.
Samsung. Okay, good. See, you holy. Samsung stands for sanctified.
Don't
That S in
Samsung.
Samsung. Sanctified. Salvation.
The apples from the garden.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so we got Apple. Now, why do we know Apple?
advertise with? And everyone has one?
Elite.
Outside the status quo.
I mean, it does the same thing as every other phone. Let's not get crazy. It's the exact same thing. But why is everybody so driven to the Apple than they are any other device?
So it's what the brand represents.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So, but the branding is so strong, it's associated with, I would say, elite or high fashion stuff, high life level stuff. But in actuality, it's cheaper than other products. But they've created that perception in the marketplace because they're innovative and they branded innovation. Oh, you didn't put the other ones out? Oh, okay, Louis V. So everybody knows what Louis Vuitton is, right? What is it?
Fashion.
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 Mm-hmm.
We see Old Navy commercials. We see Walmart commercials.
I don't see no Louis Vuitton.
Have you ever seen a Louis Vuitton commercial?
No.
I feel like I did see Louis Vuitton commercial.
Where?
I feel like I did.
Was it for
I'm
glasses?
thinking Versace.
You said you think of Versace. Yeah, I seen the Versace commercial, yeah. But Louis Vuitton?
I don't think I ever seen one.
You gotta be there, like in their realm of economy to really see their stuff like that. Same thing with Mercedes. Mercedes doesn't advertise their flagship product. Y'all probably never noticed that. Whenever they advertise or they put a commercial out, they'll put out the C-Class or the E-Class.
300, yeah.
They never put out the S-Class, S63,
560.
the AMG GT, all the good stuff. They don't put that on TV. But that's along with the branding. With the branding. So Louis V, no commercials. But everybody know the brand. Princess?
So with the higher brands, what they usually do is have people who are influencers, so celebrities. They are the people who market those brands. They don't have to do a commercial because they're influenced. We listen to them, we watch the videos, we watch the movies. That's where you see these products at. They don't have to do a commercial. Because everybody else will do it for them.
They're dripping on everybody with it. Silently.
Mm-hmm.
But it costs a lot of money. Them Louis V belts is expensive. I had a few. Had to give them up. Gifts. Because I mean, once you buy it, hey, it is what it is. Wait, did you? Okay, okay, got you. So, branding, marketing. How do we market? So, John 12:9, much people of the Jews therefore knew that he was there, and they came not for Jesus' sake only, but that they might see Lazarus also, whom he had raised from the dead. Branding. So who cares about Lazarus?
Proof and credibility.
Credibility, yeah.
I wrote a message for preaching one time. It's called "The Evidence is at the Table," because Lazarus is at dinner. So in this part of the Bible, this story, Lazarus is he had died. They buried him. He was in the grave in the cemetery for about 4 days. So Jesus comes, resurrects Lazarus, and now they go to dinner after that. So the marketing piece is now much people of the Jews. That's the marketing piece. He did something that is unheard of. But why is it such good marketing? Why is him being raised from the dead good marketing?
No, it's uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you see people do. So when someone does it, it makes you an outlier similar to the 4-minute mile.
Gotcha. I like that. What was you about to say?
I was gonna say, piggyback off that basically, it's remarkable, meaning that people can remark about it and spread it word of mouth. So the, I guess the vector for marketing would be word of mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You're going in that direction, I'm going in. Good. So also, with it being word of mouth, why is it word of mouth? Why is this so remarkable or so heavy for us to go tell everybody? Because it's not, everybody's not happy Lazarus is raised from the dead. I can tell you that right now.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Because sorry, excuse me. Humans are power moments, basically. Essentially, we live in moments. We remember certain moments. So, for example, if we go to Disneyland, you're gonna remember like all the highs. But if you take a survey throughout the entire day, you're like, okay, you get an average about your experience is about 6, out of 10.
Mhm.
But if you take a survey afterwards, you're looking about like 8 or 9. So, if it's remarkable and it's something out of the ordinary, it sticks in your mind. So that way, that's one of the that's one way to propagate such remarkable events.
Yes. Yes. Anybody else want to piggyback on that? Okay. So Lazarus is important because Lazarus is who Jesus uses to claim authority in that space. I have authority over death and life. So for me to be able to totally defy what we know as life as we know it, being raised from the dead is unheard of. It's remarkable. What else is remarkable is the fact that in Lazarus's case, he waited 4 days. So they went through the entire burial process, put him in a grave, embalmed him, wrapped him up, did whatever they needed to do. And he is set to where his final resting place is for all eternity as far as we know. For you to come and defy what we currently believe, now that makes you remarkable. Because you're claiming authority in that space, but it's a very unique authority because nobody's doing that.
Right.
So how can you claim authority in the space that you're in? That makes you remarkable. It makes you unique. It makes you the person to go to. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you came. If you don't know Drewski Scott is one of the only, if not the only, black real estate brokerage in Buffalo, New York. If that isn't a way to claim authority in a space, I don't really know what else would be. Because now you're putting yourself in a place that's very unique. There's no other black brokers. Is that still the case?
There's about 8 of us.
Okay.
You'll hear about 2 others.
Was it MMD?
MMB is one, but the partnership is what makes the difference. We're the only
Gotcha.
black-owned, certified city, county, state, black-owned business.
Yeah.
And then the only father and son black-owned business in the state.
Father and son. Oh, yeah, that's good. Father and son. So he's furthering the uniqueness. He's furthering the remarkability. When you can control a space and claim authority in a space that in a way defies everybody's thinking about what they think about this type of thing. So in this instance, he's defying what they believe about death. He's defying what they believe about death. So as a business person, that makes for good marketing because now you don't have to create a commercial. People are your commercial. People will tell it word of mouth. And the only way word is going to travel at that time is word of mouth. So it has to be remarkable enough for somebody to say something about it, especially now. For you to get a post or a tweet or a share is the same type of situation when it comes to marketing because now you're starting to see yourself become an authority in that space because you're good enough for somebody to talk about. Lazarus is here at this dinner. I have to go see him because I know he was dead. Why do I know he was dead? Well, they hired mourners to come and mourn Lazarus' funeral. And they were mourning for days. They get paid to cry. It's crazy. So when you have that type of marketing though working for you, even if it's negative, it's beneficial because now you're defying what everybody thinks about this particular subject. So I'm not saying go out there and get negative pub. I'm just saying it's not a bad thing.
Can I bring up an example?
Yep.
Theranos with Elizabeth Holmes. Are you folks familiar with Theranos? Essentially, she. Come here. Oh yeah.
I remember.
Yep. It's that was remarkable. So essentially, she claimed that she raised about I think it's like $2 billion in Series A, Series B, thereabouts in total funding from capital VCs, venture capitalists. And she essentially claimed that she could do a lot of blood processing, like blood screening for like diseases, all these things within 45 minutes, which not possible.
Is she the billionaire lady?
She
That-
was valuated at $1 billion at one
Right,
point in time.
okay.
Yes.
Currently incarcerated.
Yes.
Right, she was, yeah,
Yes.
okay, now I'm like, I'm familiar, okay.
Yes. So it's, she marketed that this product and that she was an authority in that field, but then it kind of backfired because there was a lot of smoke and mirrors.
So what did they bag her for lack of a better word?
Essentially, I don't want to say false advertising, but yes, basically
Fraud.
Fraud,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So they considered that fraud?
Yeah.
Did she actually have any kind of product that was remotely close to?
No.
Whoa, that says a lot.
That's correct. So like, I forgot, Bill Clinton endorsed her. The other, Warren Buffett, that's the one. Warren Buffett endorsed her. Yep.
Whoa.
So,
When was this? When
this was about,
their
three-
event?
10 years ago.
yeah.
Oh.
It's been a hot minute. Pre-pandemic, right?
I can't recall
Yeah.
exactly, but yeah. it
Everything's a
was-
fuzzy haze now.
Yeah, but no, they were talking about
It was
her.
talking about smoke and mirrors. It was
Yes.
Right.
a classic case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, how does a person hit $1 billion plus from not having a product? That's crazy.
Yeah. It was all about the branding
Yep.
and the messaging, the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So her message, how she delivered it to a lot of billionaires was she lowered her voice, I believe. She lowered her voice to essentially try to subliminally trick people into being able to trust her.
Oh wow, that's tough.
And she had like like blonde hair, blue eyes, all that fun stuff. So Stanford, I think, drop out. I think it was one of the Ivy Leagues.
Well, she dropped out of Ivy League college. Dang, that's
So that's
great.
part of her brand as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's tough.
Yeah, everyone was bamboozled, and then I think Walgreens figured it out, and then they called her out on it. And there was a journalist from the Chicago Times, or Tribune, I forgot.
So she never even had an actual product or service.
Yep, and she got a contract with Walgreens. No
Ooh.
one did their due diligence.
That's tough. But that goes to show you branding, credibility, relationships.
You say that, think of like building on a solid foundation, you're building on sand.
Yeah.
Building on sand, it always crumble.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, and honestly, my thing is to hit $1 billion, it's not an instant thing. This was a processed time. Like even with Bernie Madoff, I looked at his story too. And for him to go 40 years scamming and hitting, I mean, they clocked him for 60 billion, but they couldn't really figure out or quantify what he actually did, but they clocked him for 60 billion. So that they might have missed $1 trillion. Because at this point, it's like, what can you do? But at that point, he been doing this 40 years. And you lock him up now? Like, I mean, at this point, take his money from him, but you gonna send him to jail? Y'all should have checked the records.
Mhm.
Everything is public, nothing is private now. We live in a day and age where you can't own a business and not be on social media. You can't do anything and hide anymore. Gone are the days where you can do that. Everybody wanna know what you ate for breakfast. They wanna know if you can cook. They wanna know if you like certain drinks, where you like to vacate, what your kids look like, who your mama is. All those different things, you can't hide from the public anymore. So how do you get to $1 billion and nobody know it?
Yeah, she was really good at pitching.
Gotta be.
Like BBC
You
pitching.
got Warren Buffett on you.
That's what I'm saying.
Honestly, no one in this room can honestly say if someone walked in this room and pitched something and they had a video from Warren Buffett saying that he co-signed it, no one in this room can say that they won't reach any pocket right now. No one in this room can honestly say that. So it's about that part too. I know Lazarus didn't have a name, but he had a story. So it's who you have in the room with you.
That's good. Oh, marketing. I love it. It's who you have in the room with you. That's good. So, do you think, or can we say, Lazarus had good relationship in the room?
I mean, he had Jesus come.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah,
point.
he
Like,
came back.
yeah, like that's my boy. That's my friend. He ain't gonna just let me die like that. You know what I mean? So,
And Jesus had a good following too. So
Right.
It was like association.
But it goes back to what Justin was saying. He didn't just have somebody, he had the Almighty in his room. Because Jesus is looked at in biblical terms as 100% God, 100% man. So if you have the embodiment of God in the room with you, you in good company. That's marketing alone by itself. Because you have the number one creator, the number one leader. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
So social media. I was actually gonna have her come up. This is Zoe Clark. She is renowned for monetizing social media pages. That's what she does as a business. She helps people monetize their pages. And it's not just regular people. She's done this for a number of religious organizations too. So for religious organizations to get to a place where they can monetize and drive income from their social media now is heavy to me. So that's what we're going to talk about, social media. So without further ado, just for a few minutes, introduce Zoe Clark.
So I'll be very brief. So like he said, my name is Zoe. I guess you could call me as a social media marketer, where I work with a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses, small businesses as well, monetize and to advertise, whether it's content, whether it's coming and being a part of, if they're doing workshops or if they are doing any type of events, just getting content for them to be able to advertise. I also mentor in that area as well, showing different businesses and different organizations how to basically track your crowd. For example, you have social medias like TikTok. Most people scroll on TikToks in the middle of the night when you get up, you grab your phone and you just scroll on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those different things. And a lot of, for certain crowds, a lot of the more of their attention will get at midnight or at nighttime or overnight. So, for example, Facebook has a, for your business, if you have a business page, you can schedule out when you want to post and when you want to do your postings. So instead of that falling on the business owner or the product owner, that will be my job. So my job is to make it easier for you to be able to get that connection, not just by word of mouth, but also on social media purposes. So I go and do the scheduling, I do the content, I do the reels, because a lot of people scroll on reels and they see, oh, they have a business and about this, that, and the third. And just also even with the church and the religious world, I run a lot of different churches and Buffalo's social media pages. I also work with their live streams as well. And then we sit down every Monday of the week and we go through the numbers and see the views and see some other ways that I can give creative ideas in order for us to stretch those numbers on social media. In the church world, a lot of people are still kind of transitioning out of COVID. So COVID, a lot of stuff was on social media. A lot of services was on social media, things of that nature. So getting back into the church world, like now we're back in the building, we still want to keep that same connection with social media. All of 90 more percentage of your business is not going to come from in where the city you live in or in your own camp. Yeah, in your own camp. More of it is going to be abroad or in a different state, a different country, things of that nature. So you always want to stay and have that connection. Word of mouth is always good, but also having that extra social media connection can also increase your numbers. So that's basically my job and what I do. And I also dabble in graphic designing too. So like I said, I do content, so create flyers, programs, brochures, things of that nature too, because a lot of people are physical too. You give word of mouth, you can see on social media, but then you have some older clients that need the physical or need to see those things. So I also work in that area and business cards as well. So yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I had to bring her up because I don't care nothing much about social media. I suck at it. I do it because we have to. I am not the best at social media. Like I said, gone are the days where you can quietly own a $1 billion company, which is why I'm shocked. Like, they should have knew what she was crazy. But
It gives balance.
yeah, it's what you want to do is learn how to show up in the room physically and make that translate to your social media.
Yes.
And I chose the scripture for that because this is not one of the pillars, but I think it goes into marketing heavily. And it says, and he went through the cities and villages, teaching and journeying towards Jerusalem. What sticks out to you about that?
Travel.
We're thinking about social media. Travel is one.
Being social, so the social part of media. So
True.
going out, connecting, networking.
He had a goal one before he left. As he was on his journey, he had a goal to where he was trying to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that helps with the story because when you walk into a room, you know, you need to be able to tell people where you're going. Maybe as much as where you came from.
Mhm.
But they need, in order for them to be of value to you, they need to know what your projection is, which is why I was determining like what is this network or what is this current network and what is the space?
Yeah.
Because okay, I can help you to get to 40 million, but I need to figure out who you need to be connected to in order for you to get there.
Can't just give you everybody.
So
willy-nilly.
all along the way, in
Right.
these villages with teaching his journey, he was able to build his network as he went because
Yeah.
they knew where he was trying to get to.
Yeah, that's a fact. And he was able to paint that picture because word of mouth there is no form of marketing better than word of mouth. I can tell you that right now.
I've been out on that too. I think it's kind of like if you stay, like it's like I think of like everybody at home is already in business, right? So it's like nothing's gonna be produced if you stay at home, but you have to go out there
Mhm.
to actually build to it, to build to that reputation, that business, and everything. Kind of works.
Yeah, for sure.
You gotta
Gotta
have-
be outside.
You gotta have both too.
Mhm.
You gotta
No,
have both.
you do because you can be in more places than you are physically
Mhm.
when you leverage the technology for it.
Yeah.
So it's gonna work hand in hand. But I'm saying as far as to get it started, to start that fire, he even had a verse in the Bible that says a prophet is not accepted in his own city. So that's gonna cause him to go out through the other cities and villages teaching, because now you're not just accepted at home where they would go out and tell everybody about what you're doing or what you're teaching. So you have to be the vehicle to carry that message to the world. And social media is going to help you do that. So social media gives you the ability to be in multiple places without physically going there first. So strategy. Mark 6:4. But Jesus said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin.
Oh, that's what I was saying.
And in his own house.
Yes,
So
I agree.
what we saw in scripture is massive exposure.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. As a business owner, you're going to need massive exposure. So how can you take authority in your space, get massive exposure at the same time, and move the business forward? How can you take control in your space? Just give me some ideas. I know for me, it's presentations like this, or networking events, but it's not considered massive exposure. Something like this where we can have this conversation, this is massive exposure for me. So for you, for your business, or for your ministry, or for your nonprofit, or whatever you're doing, what can you do to put yourself in a position that gives you authority in that space and gives you massive exposure, number two? Give me some ideas.
Bring for me, because I'm in the sales space, bring past clients back for testimonials and put that out to social media. Because the value is there. You heard the story.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're next. It's simple.
Right.
Great strategy. Anybody else?
Say differentiating yourself as an area expert, so like a specific area or focus, you can establish yourself as
As the expert.
the expert.
That's good. Establishing yourself as the expert definitely gives you authority in that space. Like Drewski was saying, testimonials also give you authority. So that validates, that's the train the temple analogy.
Good rapport.
Good rapport. With who?
The ones that you work with.
Okay.
Or also your business colleagues as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, you jumping ahead.
I'm sorry.
You jumping ahead, but no, you got it. That's true.
Piggybacking off of that, your
Mhm.
target audience.
Yeah, and your target audience.
Target audience gives you authority. Yeah, for sure. Because that's where your massive exposure is going to be to. You want to have a target, who you're going after, who you're going to connect with.
That's why Mark 4 is important too, to also give you some type of understanding and comfort knowing like, hey, yeah, my business can thrive and it's going to thrive. It might not thrive to the ones that are like around me
Mhm.
or in my vicinity, but knowing that I have the power to be able to, the power to control the narrative of my business and to reach out, expand.
Gotcha. That's good.
Partnership is important too. So if you partner with a larger network and tap into that network, and it's kind of like how she was saying with this lady, I really believe that, I mean, I wasn't there in the room 10 years ago, but I really believe that the fact that she was able to say, not too long ago, past President Bill Clinton co-signed, and then current multi-billionaire Warren Buffett co-signed, you didn't have to say too much after that.
Yeah, they don't talk money either.
So we can, if you learn to use your network and partner with some larger institutions, organizations, what have you, that'll carry you much further than what you're, like you said, like this, you can only move so many places. That's
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. That's true.
So I referenced John 6:5-14. Again, too much to put on the slide. It is the story of the fish and the loaves. So Jesus he's teaching, and it's on a hillside. There's about 5,000 men, the Bible says.
Say that again.
5,000 men.
Right.
On a
5,000
hillside.
people.
Yeah, not 5,000 people. There are 5,000 men. And at this time, we're talking about a culture that is 80% married. So it's them with the man and the woman, the wife, and the child 9 times out of 10. Because anybody that's getting married and not having no kids on purpose. So we can, from the theologian's perspective, they assumed it was over 10,000 people in this group, based on the numbers. He asks everybody to sit down in groups of 50 so that he can feed everybody. But this is massive exposure. So now, where do you think his authority comes from in ministry? Not just, his spiritual side, but we're talking about connecting, meeting people, speaking. Where is his spiritual authority, his authority in the marketplace coming from for him to command an audience of 10,000 plus people?
I think there's 3 things that it leads into. I think it leads into results, which lead into credibility, which leads into then personal testimonies from the people that you got the results from or with.
That's good.
I was thinking he's delivering in more ways than one in this setting.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, I was going to say, you speak in the physical and spiritual.
And the spiritual.
Right.
But
Right.
I can't, and this is me, PK too. You can't speak to someone without feeding them, right? That's the reason why there's food in the back.
Yeah,
Because
for
you
sure.
have to understand.
Yo, stay out of my strategy, Drew.
Next time it will be fried chicken.
You smell that too much.
Fried
Oh,
chicken. And that fruit punch that they serve.
Too sweet and sweet tea.
Yes.
Yeah, so when you see, and at that point, now here's what I really want to get at. He said, in the story, when you read it, he commanded them to sit down in groups of 50. Notice the wording. You gotta pay attention to the wording. He's already an authority in the space. So you're here to hear him speak or say what he has to say. He commands them to sit down. Commands them to sit down. Talking to the marketplace. Massive exposure. So you already got them there. You don't want them to leave because you're still teaching. So he feeds them, but in order to have some order, he commands them to sit down. Now, don't say they rebelled in the scripture, in the story. When you get a chance, research it. John, what is it, 6:5-14 through 14? Research that story. And just pay attention to how they describe what's happening.
It's donuts in the back.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I just drink water, donuts, coffee. Yeah. So, this is my focus. This is where my wheelhouse is as a business coach. What time you got?
11:34.
Ooh, we about to make this quick. Okay. So, what I normally do, because networking is my focus, this is my wheelhouse when it comes to building businesses. Like I said earlier, if you just have a desire to do something or create something or go after something, the network that you create around what it is that you're doing is going to heavily dictate whether you actually complete what it is you're trying to complete or not. It is based on that network. My grandfather will always say, if you hang around 5 dummies, you be the 6th.
That's the
It's the truth though, because dumb people do dumb stuff. So
birds of a feather flock
blur,
together.
he used to say that too, birds of a feather flock together. So I usually have my group do a networking audit. You do an audit on your network. You want to figure out who it is that you know, and if you know enough people. Because a lot of times people, you can sit down. Yeah, it's not just over there, get it and bring it and hang out.
I was going for a second round.
Yeah, listen. What you gotta do? He was standing
Like,
right
sit
there.
down, I was playing, right? I got you.
But it's the network audit. So what's important about the network audit is you need to know who you have, who you're connected to. Not because you're looking to use them in any kind of way that's negative, but you do want to leverage those relationships. Like before you got here, I told them about the guy who botched the presentation. And he was able to leverage my relationship because of who I'm connected to that was in his network. So that benefited him to be able to get the audience that he needed. I think in sales, we used to call it recruiting up. So we're not on the same level business-wise. So he recruits me as an ally, relationship-wise, to work with him to help him get his sale. And because he botched the process, he ends up losing the sale. But it's that network audit. Now, the end result was, after I tuned him up and I spoke to the CEO, she was even like, we need what he has, but he's not qualified. Whew. He's not qualified enough to be in these rooms that I'm in, because they needed what he offered, but he disqualified himself based on how he handled the situation. Back to our story, the talents. So doing the networking audit, I want you to figure out who you're connected to. Number one, make a list. If you can, write it out when you get home, you get some time. Write out your list. Number two, write down what they do. You want to write down what they do. Make a note of what they do. What is their profession? Are they a pastor? Are they a real estate agent? Are they an insurance agent? Are they a judge or an attorney? Are they a doctor? What's another profession? Give me another profession, guys. Programmer. Yeah, IT. Do they work in IT? I just had a deal I was working on recently, and I said, the first person I thought of was my boy Alex. I'm like, hey, can you guys do this? If you can do it, we can make a lot of money for the next 5 years. If not, you know. He was like, yeah, I think we can put it together. But we ended up missing the deadline, so we're gonna work on something else. But it's your network. In ministry, I find myself having a hard time to connect with most people in ministry. Yeah, building a network in ministry is tough. Me being my age, a lot of the folks who like the network aren't my age. So I'm the old dude in the room. Nobody wants to hang out with the old dude. Unfortunately, a lot of my network are older guys I respect what they do and what they've accomplished because their body of work speaks for themselves. They have a brand. Case in point, our pastor, Pastor McCarley, he has a brand. We didn't come here because of his brand. We came here because of the friendship, the relationship. But at the same time, he's established in the space. He's an authority in the space.
And he brings us into rooms.
He's going to usher you into some rooms. So the scripture we're looking at for this is 1 Thessalonians 5:12. And we beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you and are over you in the Lord and admonish you. So he's saying, know them who are doing what you do.
Yeah.
If you're in ministry, know them. Just before we leave, we gotta connect directly. I have a couple people I want to connect you to.
Sure.
But you want to make sure that you have a knowledge of who's in the space, who's doing what. I know plenty of business coaches in Buffalo. Nobody teaches what I teach, not one. They teach strategy, but without being an effective leader, like we spoke about earlier, the strategy is worthless because you don't qualify to be in those rooms. You have to develop to be a person who can get into those rooms based on your network and how they perceive you. So in my book, The Connector's Handbook, I wrote about a story called The $1 Billion Room, where in Buffalo, there was a meeting of men for business. I was invited to this meeting, and they basically, the assets in the room was over $1 billion. Now, at the time, I hadn't even made 6 figures, so I wasn't even supposed to be there, but because I looked the part, and I was able to get into the room and not, I would say, not look like I don't belong there. I was probably one of the best dressed people in the room. It was me and the dude who ran the seminar was best dressed. That held a lot of weight because I'm a nobody. Nobody knows me. On top of the fact I'm black. I mean, no offense to everybody in here, but I'm a black dude in a suit. That's a difference. There's a lot that says or is being said in those rooms when you show up a certain kind of way because you automatically may look unqualified. Now, granted, my buddy, he's not of the African American society. So I would have expected him to come a lot better, especially if I'm telling him, this is what I'm wearing. You need to be lined up with me. And honestly, if you're looking to gain influence, you need to be dressed better than me if you can be. Because this meeting is not for me, this is for you. So you need to make your first impression your best impression. So I may not have a suit and tie on. You might need one on. Not a polo and some khakis with the pockets on them, cargo pants. It's not gonna do it. Yes.
You didn't say that the first time.
Listen.
I'm like, ain't nothing wrong with a front 9 golf pants, but cargos is different.
I was trying to spare
That's
him.
wild.
But I did have to throw him under the bus and burn his face with the muffler because she was not feeling that at all. And it was so devastating to her because they needed what he offered. That's the hurtful part about it. So when it comes to knowing them that labor among you, I probably could have found somebody else that does what he does, but he was low-hanging fruit for me. We work together weekly in the networking group, so we speak all the time. I didn't expect him to really blow that like that. So knowing them that labor among you, even if they're in the same industry, is going to be key. Because there may be certain things that they're doing that you're not doing. There may be certain things that you're doing that they're not doing. So now it gives you some level of authority. It gives you some level of knowledge to say, okay, well, he knows this more than me. I need to go reach out to him. If I'm thinking of any real estate deal, I'm calling Drewski. I know you probably get tired of me texting you like, hey, what's going on? I need this, you got this? Because he's busy. But he'll take the time out and hit me back like, yo, I can do this or I can do that. Cool, let's do it. Or not do it. It is what it is. But knowing who to go to for certain things is what's gonna help you create your mastermind team. So even in ministry, that's what Jesus did. He created a mastermind team, people from all different walks of life. Some rich, some wealthy, some grinders, they working jobs, some of them not having no money really. I don't even recall really anybody not having no bread that was disciples, but at the same time, they were all
They was with all
different.
the money. They ain't need no money.
Well, no, they still need it. You still have to have some provision. That's what we're talking about. People think church is just church or ministry is just ministry. It takes money to do ministry. The M in ministry stands for money. Monetary. You need some sort of money to move an agenda along. You have a hand? So knowing them that labor among you is key. And we talked about getting your mastermind team together. So Mark 6 and 7, and he called unto him the 12 and began to send them forth by 2 and 2 and gave them power over unclean spirits. So outside the religious aspect, outside the spiritual aspect, what do we see happening here? What do we see happening here?
Start to delegate.
Started to delegate.
And grab the team.
Mm-hmm. But what did he do for them?
Get them power.
Gave them authority. Gave them authority in the space. This is what I'm doing. This is what we're doing. So in order for you to be able to do what I'm doing or what I'm sending you to do, I need you to have some power. So now I'm going to give you some of, not all of, but some of what I have so that you can go do what I do in the space that I'm not in. That is the power of your network. And that goes right back to what we were talking about as far as the 6 pillars. This is the 6th pillar in networking, creating that network. But it's going to take the proper leader to be able to get people to move or influence them to move in certain directions, one direction or another. And you need the authority for that. So it takes the authority in that space. Mm-hmm. Being ushered into new rooms. This is also part of networking. We talked heavily about that. We touched on it a little bit. Acts 2 and 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place.
Right.
So again, outside of the spiritual or religious aspect of it, what do we see happening here? What do we see happening here?
They brought back an assembly. Man, I'm sure when they came back with results. Problems and pros and cons.
Yep.
That
We
is.
learned what we messed up, what went well, what didn't go well. Here's who we helped. Here's where we saw these people still need to be helped. So there's a good projection of what needs to be done next time around.
Mm-hmm.
How can be done better?
That's good.
It's the
Iterations.
what is it?
Iterations.
Yeah, no, it's the word I'm trying to think of when you recap after you've done the work.
Oh.
I know what you're talking about, and I can't think
It's a
about
word
it.
for it.
Reflect.
But yeah, they came back, and I mean that's some power in itself. Debrief.
Debrief, that's what it is.
Everybody's
I was like, it's something with a D. I can't.
Debrief. I'm like, it's a military term. I can't think of it. That's good.
I do agree with him when he's about the debriefs. I feel like that is a good quality to have, especially in leadership, because it gets, number one, your team all on one accord, and it also shows you what you can do differently next time.
Right. What was unique about this, even though this was a debrief moment, it was the numbers as they started to multiply, as they started to grow. This situation, they're all on one accord. They have the same agenda. So you're knowing them who are in the marketplace with you. Do you have the same agenda as me? This is my goal. This is what I'm trying to do. I can't allow you to be ushered into this room without you having the same agenda. We're looking to win. So let's connect, let's network, let's work through each other to see how we can get an end result. Not looking to have you come in for an agenda that's not of the same agenda that I have. Case in point, our buddy from earlier. We're not in the room with the same agenda.
And you gotta come in with expectation too. So the significance of Acts 2, they all were meeting in one place, but also they were all meeting in one place with an expectation
Right,
of something. Like, I'm not leaving here without anything.
right.
And that's how we should think about in the business world, especially when we do like the what are the things we go to, Drew?
Networking events?
Yeah, networking.
Yeah,
So it's
that's what
like-
I'm saying.
Yeah.
You gotta come with the same agenda. And that's the thing, when people network, I'll give y'all a free tip. And Drewski probably can vouch for me with this. I don't carry business cards. In my personal opinion, I don't suggest you carry a business card either. I feel like business cards are for marketing when you're not around. Business cards are for marketing when you're not around. It's called information flow. Ooh, I'm giving y'all what I charge people for. Information flow is when you can create a piece of information that can be passed from one hand to the next or multiple people without you being present. So you create that flow or current of information. That current of information now pulls you to having better exposure, but the goal is to get what we call quality exposure or controlled exposure. You want a controlled exposure for somebody. When they come sit down with you, they already know what the ins and outs may be. So now we can jump right from A to Z because you already know or you're prepared to do what we're planning on doing. So the business card, to me, it makes people lazy when networking. And I'm actually going to do a 5-day challenge. I want to have people go out and see how many people you can genuinely connect with and exchange information with if you're in the same industry or not. Because a lot of times it's not really about what they do, it's about who they know. So being ushered into new rooms is you being taken into a place that it's like a new world because you're not familiar to them, they're not familiar to you. So how does that benefit you and how does that benefit them? Well, there are a few people in this room that I'm quite sure might need what you offer. So how do you go into the room with warm intent, not just cold market stuff? Cold market stuff is cool, but when you have somebody to usher you into a room, that's the warm market thing. Because now you have a bit of rapport. They trust you, I trust you. So I can bring you to the table and feel comfortable with you doing business with them and you not doing them filthy or, taking advantage of them. And the same, vice versa. Obviously, if they're in the same room with me, if you recognize my brand, my brand is not going to be having people in the room who may not be of the same caliber or quality. And I don't want to tarnish my good name for no kind of money. It's hard to get a good name back. It's hard to get it back.
I think when you say that, I think you bring that business, you bring that personal credibility, they bring that business credibility.
Mm-hmm.
So when you bring that personal credibility, that builds that trust.
Yep.
Now we can talk about business.
Yep, that's a fact. So being ushered into the room in Acts 2 and 1, it allows them to have the same agenda. They're all from different cultures. It's 120 people at this meeting. They go from 120 people being a follower of the way, as they call Jesus, not necessarily Christians. The word Christian was derogatory back then. But to be a follower of the way, they end up going from 120 to 3,000. That's how the explosion works, but you've got to get people with the same agenda. If everybody doesn't have the same agenda, there's no synergy, there's no unity, and nobody is going to collab to go out or do what we do together to get more people involved. And that is the importance of having a network. Any questions? Anybody, any thoughts or concerns from what we just talked about? Nobody?
That's good.
So, I want everybody to do me a favor. If you don't have my number, shoot me a text here so I can send you the ebook. So the number is 716-512-5871. 7851.
Yeah, sorry.
It's 716-512-5871. Just shoot me a text with your full name, if we're not already connected.
I don't remember because I heard you with me all the time.
Speed dial.
Right, that's a
Number
fact.
two was speed dial.
Yeah, that's another thing. You gotta remember no phone numbers
I
now,
don't
except for
remember.
911.
Yeah, that's sad. I gotta do better.
It's crazy.
I gotta call 911 if you with me all the time.
So, what I wanna do, because this was a workshop, I want everybody to get a chance to connect with each other. So before we leave, just reintroduce yourself to the people that you haven't had a chance to talk to, and make sure you guys exchange information. And that way we can stay in contact and see how we're actually gonna be able to bring some value to each other. Fair enough? Sound like a plan? Sounds like a plan. Well, with that being said, that is the end of the workshop. I appreciate you guys coming through. And like I tell everybody all the time with my clients, dream bigger, believe better, and expect greater. I'll see you guys at the top.
Could you go back a couple slides, I got a description.
Yep, I got you.
Okay.
I don't know what slide, but I see, I know when I see.
Nice to meet you, yeah, look at your phone.
I'm trying to end this joint.
Hold on right here.
Is there a bathroom?
No.
Yep, right here.